Ivalice made its first appearance in Final Fantasy Tactics in 1997. Directed by Yasumi Matsuno, who had previously made a name for himself with Tactics Ogre. From the start, Ivalice was built as a world rooted in real politics, less about prophecies and magical crystals, and more about class warfare, religious corruption, and the manipulation of history. This made it stand out dramatically from the other Final Fantasy settings of the time. Those other settings leaned more heavily into high fantasy and futuristic elements, but started off as a one-off tactical setting, gradually grew into a shared universe that spanned multiple genres and titles, not always with strict continuity, but always with a recognizable tone and texture. Visually, Ivalice draws heavily from European and Mediterranean architecture, especially medieval France, Spain, and Italy. Its cities feel weathered and ancient, often featuring Gothic arches, Moorish stonework, dry stones, and wide plazas that give the world a tangible sense of history. For example, the sprawling city of Rabanastre in Final Fantasy XII feels inspired by real-world cities like Marrakesh and Barcelona, alive, multi-tiered, and filled with cultural overlap. The choice to lean into earthy sepia tones instead of saturated blues and purples of traditional JRPGs gave Ivalice a distinct, almost painterly look. This aged, sun-bleached aesthetic supports the idea that Ivalice is a place with thousands of years of layered history, a lived-in world rather than a fantastical playground. One of Ivalice's most defining features is its roster of diverse and thematically rich races, each with its own social role and cultural texture. Humes, the setting's version of humans, are the political majority and usually the ones driving wars and empires. Bangaa are scaled lizard-like warriors who often live on the margins of society, respected for their strength but also discriminated against. Viera are mysterious, long-eared forest dwellers who live in isolation, governed by, keep it in your pants boys, governed by strict codes of tradition and matriarchal leadership, almost a tragic people, disconnected from a world that keeps moving forward. Mughals, while cutesy in design, aren't exactly like their counterparts in other Final Fantasy games. They are surprisingly serious in Ivalice, frequently cast as engineers, mechanics, and scholars. They really are the backbone of society and keep the world of Ivalice running. Sikh are rotund and often portrayed as comic relief or brutish antagonists. They play a key role in populating the underworld of crime and mercenary work. Numu, or Numao, or Numo, I don't know exactly how to pronounce it, are slow-moving and mystical, usually cast as clerics, sages, and arcane researchers, a spiritual or magical counterpart to the more grounded Hume society. Each race isn't just a visual gimmick. They serve specific functions in the world's social, economic, and political fabric. They also bring flavor to the job system, with race-locked classes that give players more incentive to consider their party makeup beyond the typical stats. What sets Ivalice apart narratively is its unapologetic focus on political complexity and moral ambiguity. And before I go further, I know I made a video last week about how I didn't really like moral ambiguity too much in Final Fantasy games, but for this world and this setting specifically, I do think it works. I'll try to elaborate more on that at the end of the video. In most Ivalice stories, the enemy isn't a giant god or ancient evil, it's ideology, corruption, and power itself. Final Fantasy Tactics presents a world where church and state are locked in a brutal cycle of manipulation, and even noble characters become pawns in a rigged system. Final Fantasy XII scales this up, showing empire, rebellion, and espionage through a rotating ensemble of perspectives. Religion is a loaded subject in Ivalice. The Church of Glabados and Tactics, for example, rewrites history, canonizes lies, and condemns truth-tellers like Ramza to oblivion. The Zodiac Braves mythos acts as a connective tissue across games, illustrating how stories and symbols are warped by those in power. Another key theme is destiny versus autonomy. Characters like Ramza, Ash, and Balthier constantly push against the roles the world tries to force upon them. Heroes in Ivalice aren't fated. They're forged through disobedience, resilience, and sacrifice. So here's a list of games set in Ivalice. A couple of them I haven't played, but the majority of them I have just great memories of, childhood and my teenage years, and I love these games. Of course, we have the OG. Final Fantasy Tactics is the cornerstone, a dark Shakespearean war drama that explores the fall of noble houses and a hero who is erased from history for telling the truth. And then there's Vagrant Story. Though not branded with Final Fantasy, it is set in the Ivalice region and dives into supernatural horror and psychological themes. Its city, Le Monde, is a crumbling, haunted urban maze filled with alchemical secrets and cursed history. And then we have Final Fantasy XII, which expanded the world into a bustling, fully 3D empire, showing different kingdoms, clans, and species all vying for control in the age of airships and occupation. It introduced a grander, more cosmopolitan Ivalice, like a political thriller crossed with Star Wars. Literally. Tactics Advance and in Tactics Advance 2 take a lighter approach, presenting Ivalice as either a kind of dream world or parallel reality, but they still flesh out the races and class systems in ways that reinforce the setting's depth and themes. And then there are spin-offs like Revenant Wings and Crystal Defenders, which I have not played. And while these are smaller in scale, they do add nuance, showing how Ivalice's conflicts echo even in minor or distant corners of the world. And even Final Fantasy XIV later pays homage to Ivalice with the Return to Ivalice raid series, which might be my favorite raid series in the entirety of Final Fantasy XIV. And also I may have played Revenant Wings. I don't remember it. I feel like we had it, but I can't remember. So yeah, I'm assuming I did not play it. When you get older, like these things just start to all blend together. Ivalice's visual design emphasizes tactile realism. Clothes are layered and worn, buildings crumble believably, and even the magic feels weathered and ritualistic, rather than flashy and cartoonish. Yoshida's character designs walk a delicate line between elegance and practicality. Robes have weight, armor has seams, and characters look like people trying to survive a harsh world, not fantasy fashion models. From menus to maps to HUDs, every UI element feels bespoke and in-world, almost like it was carved from leather or painted on parchment. The consistent use of muted colors, natural lighting, and medieval iconography gives the entire setting a tone that's equal parts faded fresco and living history. While the name Ivalice Alliance was created by Square Enix to brand a group of loosely connected titles, it's really the Yasumi Matsuno extended universe. Matsuno didn't direct all these games, but his fingerprints are everywhere. In the geopolitical tone, the multi-factional storytelling, and the way Ivalice treats war and religion as systemic, not fantastical. His work often features non-linear storytelling, hidden truths, and characters that must navigate power structures larger than themselves. Even without a single canonical timeline, there's a philosophical and aesthetic unity that binds these games. It's not just lore, it's ethos. When you step into Ivalice, you're entering a world with rules, hierarchies, and consequences that feel far more real than most video game worlds dare to attempt. To many fans, Ivalice represents the pinnacle of Final Fantasy world building, a place that isn't just magical but believable. Its political complexity, attention to detail, and willingness to explore darker themes have kept it alive in the hearts of players long after the last major Ivalice game. Despite the series moving on to new settings and styles, Ivalice remains a favorite. So much so that Final Fantasy XIV resurrected key elements and characters in its Ivalice Alliance raids, canonizing much of Matsuno's work into the MMO's vast mythos. there's a persistent hope among fans for a full return to Ivalice. Not just in cameos or mobile spin-offs, but in a new, high-budget story that returns to its roots of ambition, ambiguity, and grit. Until then, Ivalice remains a world that rewards those who dig deep, think critically, and refuse to accept history at face value. Alright, so let me know what you guys think of the video. Do you agree? Is Ivalice just the GOAT, or is it just another setting? For me, it's my favorite. You guys probably know that by now, and if you don't, well, now you do. And for what I was thinking earlier, when I was talking about the video I made where I don't really like moral ambiguity or like super gray characters, and that's true for the most part. But for this particular setting, the world building is so strong and the lore is so deep and so rooted that I do accept it for what it is, and I actually enjoy that ambiguity in Ivalice. I don't really like it for like just the regular anthology Final Fantasy series. For some reason, it's kind of hard to explain. Do you guys have this problem where you can think something very clearly in your head? The thought is in my head, but getting it out into words is hard. It's hard to put it into words the way I feel. There's some kind of loss in translation disconnect between my brain and mouth. And yeah, it's just the way the world is rooted is the way they built it up from the ground up, that these are the rules of this particular universe. And I suspend my disbelief and I just kind of roll with it, and I like it in this Ivalice setting, and I don't really like it too much anymore in other media. And it also helps that there hasn't been a game in Ivalice in a while. And, you know, just so why I say it, Final Fantasy XVI had a lot of moral ambiguity, and I just never really bought into that world of 16. I don't know. I've made videos about that. That's not what the point of this video is. The point is I love Ivalice, and I want to know if you guys love Ivalice too. If it's not your favorite, that's totally fine. What is your favorite setting though? I would love to know. I have some that are way up there, but they don't quite touch Ivalice. So don't forget to like and subscribe if you got this far. It's just RPG content all the time. I'm also playing Stardew Valley, which is very fun. So you can check that out. And yeah, thank you for hanging out. Take care and God bless. Okay, real quick, if you guys were wondering why I kept looking outside during that outro, is because I'm pretty freaking sure somebody may have gotten murdered across the street from me, like diagonally on that corner of the street, because there was like 6 cop cars, an ambulance, a fire truck, a unmarked like cop car who came out, and I'm pretty sure it was like a homicide detective, because he was just wearing like his suit with the tie, and yeah, that's why I kept looking out there. That's why I'm looking out there now. They all left. They were out there for a while. I don't know what they did. I don't know. That's why I was looking out there. Shit's crazy.